Tellez is back. Everyone is stoked. His season's been resurrected. Everything's going to be just fine. Or, maybe not. Good morning to you. Good Wednesday morning. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports, and this is Daily Shot of Pirates. It comes your way bright and early every weekday if you're into football and or hockey. I also offer daily shots of Steelers and Penguins in the same place that you found this. Pirates 9, Reds 5 last night in Cincinnati. Brian Reynolds extended his hitting streak to 22, longest active streak in the majors. Also homered, Jared Triolo homered, Nick Gonzalez with 3 hits. Mitch Keller toughed it out, didn't necessarily have his best stuff, but 4 runs, 3 of those earned on 6 hits over 5 2/3 innings. 2 1/3 solid innings of relief from Carmen Mlodzinski. Probably not to be ignored, regardless of the final score. And yes, Rowdy was involved too. 2 for 4 with an RBI, walk, and a steal. How about that? And after that, his batting average is up to 228. I'm not sharing that to be, taking shots at him or whatever. That's his actual average. It's 228. And in the month of June, in which he's accounted for pretty much all of his actual offense, he's batting .352 with a .407 on base percentage. And yeah, so there it is. He's back. Nice contract. Let's see what he's got. No. Okay? No. This isn't it. This isn't it. They're trying to make it, including in direct conversation with me, and I'm not having it because Rowdy was signed to be, guess what, a first baseman, and as such to provide power. When he was signed, and I was there for this, Ben Cherington brought up the 35 home runs he'd hit for Milwaukee a couple of years ago and said that he felt that there was something there that they could still unlock. He knew about Rowdy from his days in Toronto, and that's where they were going to get their power from. That was their justification for having Rowdy be their primary target at that position entering the offseason. I'm going to repeat that to you for emphasis because I don't know that my reporting on that has made it to, exactly 100% of you. But Rowdy was the main guy. He wasn't a second choice, a third choice. He wasn't, Carlos Santana might get swept up somewhere else. They didn't want Santana. Santana's having an even better June, by the way, and a way better season. They wanted Rowdy. They wanted to see if they could somehow outsmart everybody and recreate that 35 home run output for the Brewers and say, look at us. Look at how smart we are. Even though Rowdy had a down year, 2023, he was banged up a little bit, had a hand injury. They thought this was it. He's healthy now. He's ready for the big bounce back, even though the Brewers themselves let him walk away so that they could invest 3 years and $39 million into Rhys Hoskins, who's been really good for the Brewers because he's just a really good ball player. You get what you pay for. And the Brewers, based in a market that's 2/3 the size of Pittsburgh, aren't afraid to add because their primary motivation up there is winning. And in turn, that's why they're in first place in the Central Division by a country mile at the moment. But Rowdy's back. And everyone who's even peripherally associated with Cherington at 115 Federal and throughout PNC Park is going out of their way to somewhat playfully and gently wag fingers about Rowdy's big comeback. See, what would have happened if we gave up on Rowdy? All of you, meaning media, fans, whoever, wanted him gone, but he's still here, and look at what we're getting out of him. As if 2 months of getting absolutely nothing out of him in the lineup just get magically erased, and as if he's producing even now the power that you sought when you acquired him. I love his June. I don't have a complaint about somebody batting .352 with a .407 on base percentage, but I'm also not going to just, gloss over the fact that even when he's going this well, for the month, he's got 5 whole extra base hits. One of those a home run and 11 RBIs. That's not a middle of the order bat. I don't even see that as a 6 or 7. I guess maybe a 7, but really where you want somebody who's just swatting singles all over the field when they're sizzling in a good lineup is somewhere down low. The power that he was supposed to bring, that was the main reason for acquiring him, the main reason for making him the number one pursuit at the position, as I've been told conclusively, both then and even now, was that he'd, put the ball over the fence once in a while, or off the fence. And that hasn't happened. And that has me thinking all kinds of things about whatever might have happened to his power. Maybe it's injury related. Maybe they didn't get the full or best read on his swing, whether it's bat speed, launch angle, you name it. But even now that he worked with his dad and commendably got back to making regular contact with the ball, he's only struck out 11 times all month, by the way. That's very good. But that also means that he's making this much contact and the ball still really isn't getting very far. It's going over infielders' heads for the most part. And by no means should anyone in management, least of all Cherington himself, be looking at Tellez and thinking, all right, there it is. Now we don't need to address first base. We've got our guy. No, you definitely don't. When we come back, J1Q. This portion of Daily Shot of Pirates is brought to you by our friends at North Shore Tavern. That's directly across Federal Street from PNC Park. It's home of Steak on a Stone, an eating experience, underscoring the word experience. The steak is brought to you partially cooked on an 800-degree stone, and you do the rest. It's a ton of fun, it's a great meal, and it's a baseball atmosphere like no other in Pittsburgh. North Shore Tavern, right across Federal Street from PNC Park.
It's Gun Storage Check Week. Help prevent unwanted access to your firearms. No one wants their unsecured gun to be used in an accident, a suicide, or a crime. Use lockboxes, safes, and locks to secure your firearms. Learn more at gunstoragecheck.org. That's gunstoragecheck.org. Brought to you by NSSF, the Firearm Industry Trade Association.
Today's J1Q comes from Bob, who says, DK, your J1Qs tend to center a great deal on the ineptitude of Andy Haynes as hitting coach, which is deserved. The Brewers had the wherewithal to rid themselves of Haynes. The Pirates saw Haynes' availability as good fortune after firing Rick Eckstein. My question, does the manager recommend new coaches for hire, or is he told who will be on his staff by the general manager? Is Derek Shelton keeping his hitting coach employed, or is Ben Cherington avoiding embarrassment by keeping Haynes on board and not going with a third hitting coach in 5 years? Bob, I love you. That's the first thing that I have to say to you today. There's so much smart observation from afar, obviously, in your question that I'm tempted to just say, yeah, all that. But I'm going to go ahead and try to answer the stuff that you asked anyway to maybe keep you on the correct path. The general manager, Cherington, hired the hitting coach. The general manager, Cherington, fired Eckstein, who was the only coach he'd kept on from the previous administration. The reason for firing Eckstein, which happened at mid-season, I should add, was that he and or his analytics department didn't see eye to eye with Eckstein's approach. Eckstein had been kept on because players like Josh Bell, Adam Frazier, Brian Reynolds, and some others had really, no pun intended, gone to bat for Eckstein. They loved what he had done for them. Cherington, who believes in a passive approach, I don't care what he calls it, that's what it actually is, wanted to have a hitting coach who went along with that, who would run up opponents' pitch counts, who would be extremely selective at the plate to the point of just a lot of the time, you've seen it, standing there, watching pitches go by, which is how Jack Sawinski can go from 26 home runs to just watching third strikes. But that's the GM's choice. Haynes was the GM's guy, and Haynes is still employed because of, a scenario that's pretty similar to the one you yourself laid out with speculation, and that's that the GM doesn't want to be changing hitting coaches because he doesn't want to look like he was wrong. We've seen that pattern in play, on more scenarios than I can count, but since I opened the show today with Rowdy Tellez, that one might stand out more than any other. Any other team in Major League Baseball sends Rowdy packing after those first 2 months. And by the way, none of those teams goes boasting about Rowdy's June when he's supposed to be hitting for power and he isn't coming close to doing that. To answer your question about Shelton was a former hitting coach himself. And I'd like to think that in my role as reporter, this is my 20th year of covering the Pirates, I've got a pretty good feel for the relationships and the respect level between managers and head coaches and their assistants and their coordinators, depending on the sport. And every time Haynes has come up in any kind of conversation with Shelton, it's brushed aside so quickly that you don't really get a sense for it. I don't know how else to put that. You don't get anything negative, but you don't get anything positive either. You just don't get anything. But what you also don't get, and this is kind of the part that I don't like, Shelton was a major league hitting coach for a while with some pretty decent results. Why hasn't he just taken over? Clint Hurdle did this, and Clint Hurdle spoke about it openly, said, I don't like the results we're getting right now. I used to be a hitting coach in this league for a long time. I'm going to be keeping a closer eye on things. He'd find some diplomatic way to put it, but he'd also be honest about it. None of that happens. None of that happens in this scenario. I appreciate the question. I appreciate everybody listening to Daily Shot of Pirates, and we're going to do another one of these tomorrow.